holiday dinner or any fancy dinner for that matter needs a great potato dish. And these are one of the best and easiest potatoes that I've ever made. These roasted mini potatoes are roasted in the oven and then tossed in fresh garlic and herbs, finished with Parmesan cheese. They look impressive, they taste incredible, and they take almost no time or effort. People are gonna go nuts over these. For the full ingredient list, check the description box below, but enough talking, let's get cooking. So the first thing we gotta do is wash our potatoes, but before I wash them, let me show you our potatoes. So I got these mini potatoes, so they're like mini red potatoes and mini Yukon Gold potatoes. So we're gonna go with a little bit of the white, a little bit of the red. It'll give it a really nice pop of color, but you could also do this recipe with just the yellow or just the red potatoes, and it would be totally fine. So we're gonna take these and we're gonna toss them into a bowl. I'm gonna add a spoonful of this baking soda to wash them. You know, remember, potatoes grow in the ground, so even if they wash them and say that they're washed, they're still covered with dirt. So I always wash potatoes before I use them, especially when we use them like this with the skin on. So I'm gonna add 2 spoonfuls of baking soda. I'm gonna fill the bowl up with water so the potatoes are completely submerged. Just gonna give it a little mix just to mix in the baking soda. So now I'm gonna let them soak for about 10 minutes before I bring them over to the sink, give them a rinse and a little light scrub. So after about 10 minutes of soaking, I'm now gonna rinse them all off one by one, and I'm just gonna look to see, like, is there any like dirt spots that like need to be scrubbed off. Now I'm just gonna take my towel and dry off the potatoes. If you do not wash your potatoes, you're probably eating more dirt than you wanna be, because nobody's doing this step. And even though these potatoes say that they're pre-washed, they're never gonna wash them the same way that I'm gonna wash them at home. Your grandmother would never believe to live in a world where potatoes would come washed from the supermarket and you didn't have to wash them. So, you know, I always wash all my produce because, again, the alternative is not washing it because it takes too much time. So now I'm gonna take these potatoes and I'm gonna halve them. This is a little pet peeve of mine, but if you're gonna cut a potato, not all potatoes are perfectly round. You can see that this potato is a little bit more long this way than it is this way. So I'm always gonna cut it where I get 2 thicker sides instead of 2 thinner sides. I'm gonna do one the other way just so you can see what I'm talking about. But if I was gonna cut this potato, I wouldn't cut it this way and give me 2 flat potatoes. I like the potatoes when they're like this because these potatoes have a nice creamy center, and you kind of like eliminate a lot of that creamy center. They get a little flat when you cut them this way. We're just gonna mix that in and no one will ever know. So again, always cutting it, I guess that's not long ways, but widthways? Is that the right term for how I'm cutting this? Widthways? You can even get fancy and cut them 2 at a time as long as you line them up nice. You know, in the kitchen, you want to move as fast as you can, but without moving too fast. So if I started doing these 3 at a time, they'd probably start to get a little sloppy. Maybe your knife skills are not where mine at, and you can only do 1 at a time, and that's okay. Take your time. You know, we live in a world right now where everything needs to be done instantly. Nobody wants to take time to do things that take long steps. That cathartic work is very important, and I think it's becoming a lost thing, especially like with home cooking in general, because a lot of home cooking is very repetitive. So if you're not gonna do it, you're gonna pay somebody else to do it, or they're just not gonna do it at all. And that's probably the worst. So now to these potatoes, we're gonna add some olive oil. And we're gonna season it really simply with first some of my base seasoning. This is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper, and some smoked paprika. We're gonna get in there with our hands and give this a mix. And now we're gonna add these to a baking tray lined with aluminum foil and parchment paper. The parchment paper is to make it non-stick, and the aluminum foil is just to save on cleanup so this doesn't turn into a burnt mess. I'm gonna spread the potatoes out. You don't have to put them cut side down or cut side up. I like to kind of just keep them a little bit of, some fall up, some fall down, and it makes it very, I guess, eclectic is the word, but rustic, you know? Some have the burnt on the bottom, some have the burnt on the top. These are gonna go in a 400-degree oven with a convection setting on for about 20 to 30 minutes, maybe about halfway through, probably about a little bit more than halfway. I'm gonna give the pan a shake and a little spin around so they cook nice and evenly. If you don't have a convection setting, I would just do this at a slightly higher temperature, maybe like 415, 425. Let's get these in the oven and then let's make our garlic and herbs. So I got my fresh herbs here. I got some sage, some thyme, and some rosemary, and some fresh garlic. You can use any fresh herbs for this, so you could use any one of these or any combination of the two. I like to use all three. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the leaves off of them and then give them all of a nice chop all together. So I'll take a couple of these sage leaves. I'll peel the leaves off of this rosemary. And you pull the leaves off of rosemary the same way that you do parsley. So you go 3 fingers. There's one point at the top at which it will pull away from, it'll break. But below that, the stem is really woody. So you just grab your 3 fingers. Oh, see, that was the point at which it broke. Now I'll hold right above that. That's the woody stem. And then I'll pull all the way down. Everything above that point at which it broke is tender. Everything here is very woody. So this you want to keep out. These you can do the same for, but if this stem actually ends up in there, it's not that big of a deal because the stem's pretty tender. Same thing goes with the thyme. So to clean the thyme, 3 fingers, pull down, and then I flip it around, pull the rest, whatever comes off the top. It's usually tender anyway, so it won't be woody inside the food. And now we'll peel a couple cloves of this garlic. And what we're gonna do is we're going to cut this up really fine, and then we're gonna saute the garlic and herbs separate because we do want them cooked, but if we throw them in with the potatoes, they're gonna burn, the garlic and the herbs. So we're gonna cook them separate and then toss them all together in the end. And we're gonna mince until it's nice and fine. And we're gonna keep these separate because we're gonna cook the herbs first and then we're gonna cook the garlic. The garlic cooks much faster than the herbs, so by the time the herbs are cooked, the garlic would have been burnt, so we're gonna keep them separate. And for a recipe like this, you really wanna make sure that you're mincing your garlic nice. You don't want really like big giant chunks of garlic in there. You want the garlic and the herbs to be like an accessory to the potatoes. And now we're gonna do the same thing for the herbs. So I'm just gonna keep running my knife over the top until all of it is nice and fine. And I like to do it in this order too because the herbs are a little bit more messy than the garlic. The garlic doesn't get too messy, cleans up nice and easy. The herbs are gonna get everywhere. There's gonna be green stuff. So after this, I can wash the cutting board. And after a couple passes, I'll just keep working it through, just aiming for the big pieces. When you're using fresh herbs like this, like rosemary, sage, and thyme, not so much the sage, but especially the rosemary. One of my pet peeves is seeing like big chunks of rosemary and stuff that's not supposed to be. Like, take your time, chop it up. It should just all look like one nice uniform like herb blend. And while I still got the knife and the cutting board out, we're gonna garnish this up with some fresh parsley at the end. So let's cut that all up right now. Whenever you're doing your cooking, you wanna do all your prep all together. You know, every once in a while, you might have like some latency in the recipe where you're just kind of waiting around for stuff and then maybe you can go back to it. But here I wanna move really fast, and there's nothing faster than cutting this while I already got the knife and the cutting board already out. And if you're making this recipe around holiday time, I can't tell you enough, cut up a lot of parsley every time you cut up parsley. Maybe you should just do it once and cut up like one big bunch. You can take all of your recipes and fancy them up a little bit just by throwing some fresh parsley on top. Make it look restaurant quality. So after about 15 minutes, you can see the potatoes, they're not crispy yet. They're far from done. I'm gonna give them just like a little bit of a shake. We're gonna give it a spin. Because when you're moving stuff around an oven, there's some cold spots and some hot spots. When you give this like little shake and this little spin, stuff cooks way more evenly. I'm gonna throw these in the oven and now let's go over to the stove and we'll make our garlic and herb mixture. So to this small frying pan, I'm gonna add some olive oil and a little bit of butter. I'm gonna turn this over like a medium-ish heat. We're gonna let this butter melt, and then after the butter melts, we're gonna add our herbs, and we're gonna fry them really lightly until they become really fragrant, and then we're gonna add our garlic. I like doing it this way because I want to avoid the butter burning, the garlic burning, and the herbs burning, because we only wanna cook them to make sure that the flavor comes out of them. The butter, the herbs, and the garlic all have a tendency to burn, so if we start it on a colder pan and we bring the heat up gradually, we're way less likely to burn anything here. And you can see in just a moment, these Hexclad pans get so hot so quick. So now we're gonna add our fresh herbs into this. I think I cut up a little bit more than I needed, but I'm gonna put, I don't know, maybe like 2 tablespoons in there. And now I'm gonna let these cook for about a minute before I add the garlic, because these herbs will cook really, really quick. And we just wanna get the rawness out of them. These fresh herbs are not too flavorful when they're raw. In fact, they're too punchy, too bright. You don't really use them a lot raw, but once they cook down, the flavors mellow out so much. So now before these herbs burn, they've been there for about a minute, we're gonna add our garlic. The garlic we're not holding back, we're throwing all of it in there. I've never ran into too much garlic, so I don't think that'll be a problem today. And now we're just gonna let this cook for maybe 30 seconds. We don't want this garlic to brown at all. We just want it to cook a little bit, mellow out, and release its flavor into this mixture. While that's cooking, we need to season this because this is one of our components. We don't put unseasoned food with seasoned food because that makes bland food. So a little pinch of salt and some fresh ground black pepper. And that's it. Like once it starts smelling like wonderfully cooked, like garlic and herb mixture, and you can see that the garlic still hasn't gone brown yet, because once it goes brown, the next step is burnt and you don't want to take it that far. So we're gonna shut this off the heat and we're just gonna let this sit there till our potatoes finish. So these have been in the oven for a little over 30 minutes. So let's take a look at one of these potatoes. You can see we got nice color on both sides of them, a little bit on the bottom where it was contacted on the pan, and also the top. Ooh, it's very hot. So let's let these cool down for a few minutes. As they cool down, the starch on the outside is gonna start to get a little bit more hard. It's gonna provide some structure, just so these potatoes are gonna have a little crisp on the outside. So let's let these cool for 5 minutes before we toss them with the garlic and the herbs. So now using our aluminum foil and parchment paper setup, we can make a nice, easy transfer into our mixing bowl. And now to the mixing bowl, we're gonna add our butter, oil, garlic, and herb mixture. And now we're gonna give these potatoes a nice toss with the garlic and the herbs. So now we'll take these potatoes and we'll add them to our serving platter. And now shredding right on top some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. And now just a little bit of that fresh parsley right on top. Really make those colors pop. Now look how amazing this dish looks. And it was so little effort, but so much flavor. These potatoes look absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to try them. They smell amazing. Oh my God. I can smell the garlic, the herbs, the potatoes, the cheese. So if we take a nice scoop of these, I mean, these potatoes will sit very nicely next to any protein. Let's take a look at this potato. Nice and crispy, both sides. Cheese, garlic, herbs. In fact, let's do 2 potatoes for the first bite. 1 red, 1 yellow. This is gonna be an epic bite. That's a good potato. This potato is crispy on the outside. I want to show you how creamy it is on the inside. Look at me break this potato. Look how soft and amazing that is on the outside. And look how the outside, it's like the skin still retains like really good texture. That's one of the best parts about using mini potatoes is you get to use the skin and the potato all together and you get it all in one bite. The garlic, the herbs, and the cheese make this so fantastic and so indulgent. And this was so easy. Even when I went to go make this recipe today, I didn't even have to go to the supermarket for any of this stuff. I had it all in the house. Holidays are hard enough, and if you're gonna make any potato, forget the mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes are for babies and they are so out, probably one of the most overrated potatoes. These roasted mini potatoes made like this is the most underrated potato dish, and I will eat my words. These potatoes were out of this world and they were so easy. You'll make them on a weekday, you'll make them for Christmas dinner, they'll hit every time. If you like this video, hit like. If it's your first time here, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you can find out when I drop new recipe videos. And if you're into potato recipes, especially holiday potato recipes, check out my roasted russet potatoes that I roast in the pan with olive oil. Really awesome recipe, another great potato showstopper. I will see you there. Thanks.